Well, good afternoon, everyone. Meteorologist Michael Wilhite here with Southern Indiana Weather. Thanks for logging on to this update. Wow, what a wild ride that was yesterday. Bill now pushing off to the east, though. We're starting to see some thinning out of the clouds. Nice afternoon, warming up just a little bit, too. And, of course, you got plans out there this evening. Well, certainly a lot better to be out this evening than it was last night. Of course, last night we had some major flash flooding problems across the area. And of course, it was all a result of Tropical Storm Bill, well, the remnants thereof. And you can see there Bill is spinning over in eastern Kentucky and moving off from away. Maybe some stray showers or drizzle off and on, but it's starting to thin out more now, and so it looking less and less of a concern. Bill is sort of located over here. We'll call it right over here around Ashland, Kentucky. Right around in this area. As he continues to pull off, eventually the clouds will start to thin out a little bit, and we'll go and we'll be able to have a little bit of a thinning sky, and of course that will be nice. Now, our next weather maker, though, that we're going to have to worry about is really off to our north. In fact, some pretty wild weather going on up here tonight. If I sort of zoom out, you can see up here in Iowa, once everything starts to maybe get its act back here together again, you can see a little bit of a line starting to form up here, and no watch officially with that yet, but some things may come out for that tonight. This will be sort of a hot zone for some severe weather potentially later tonight. That's associated with a cold front that's going to move down our way, and it could make a wild and interesting ride for our Father's Day. We'll talk about that here in just a second. We're sponsored today by Welps Farm and Greenhouse. Visit them on the web at welpsfarmandgreenhouse.com for all of your lawn and garden needs. You can find out all of the great things that they do there. Give them a call, 812-326-2709. You can see their hours of operation there as well. 7907 East State Road 64 in Birdseye. welpsfarmandgreenhouse.com. Visit them, please. Tell them Southern Indiana Weather sent you. All right, let's talk really quickly before we get into that chance of severe weather tomorrow. How much rain did we end up getting? Well, take a look at this. This is 24-hour precipitation ending at 7 a.m. this morning. So really this is what most of us got from Bill, because Bill was pretty much out of a picture for most of us by 7 a.m. this morning. And you can see, except for those on this far side over here, but you can see southwest Indiana got hammered, and I've been saying all week long that I feared there was going to be some 4 to 6 or even higher rain totals out of Tropical Storm Bill. We couldn't really predict exactly where those rain totals would show up, but boy, that's exactly what we show here. It looks like a bullseye up here right around the Knox and Davies County area of 6.77 inches. But you can see anywhere from from 2 to 4 inches, very common here in southwest Indiana. And of course, once maps are updated tomorrow to account for the rainfall that would have fallen this morning after this map was made, you'll see some pretty impressive totals over here on this side as well. But in general, 2 to 5 inches fell area-wide, and of course, that's just what fell from Tropical Storm Bill. You add up all the other rain that we've had over the week, and it's pretty impressive. If you add up everything, counting Bill and all of the storms that we've had over the past week, I've gotten nearly 5 inches of rain here at the Southern Indiana Weather Office, and I know many of you would be able to say that you've got locally higher amounts even over that. So typical rainfall type of an event with this storm, very spotty in nature. Can't really predict who exactly got the heavy storms, but not in advance anyways, but very heavy rainfall across the area. Unfortunately, we got more storms in the forecast. It just seems like it won't end. In fact, slight risk of severe weather for tomorrow for your Father's Day. And folks, we've got a storm system that could be moving in, but there are some questions about this, and so let's evaluate it. Remember, a slight risk basically means a 15% chance of severe weather per the Storm Prediction Center. Now, by tomorrow, I think they'll fine-tune that area a little bit more. Do we deserve a 15% risk, or do we deserve their marginal 5%? Well, we'll talk about that here in just a second. First off, remember that we need 3 things to get severe weather to happen in the area. The first thing that we need is we need to have some sort of a trigger to set the storms off. We need a forcing mechanism. That can come through an upper level disturbance moving through, but in our case tomorrow, it just comes from a cold front. This is the cold front. It's currently located up here around Iowa, and it's causing those storms there tonight. It'll dip down. By the way, those storms tonight won't affect us. They'll dissipate. It would be new storms that develop along the front tomorrow. But the question is, how strong will they get? So the forcing will certainly be there in the form of a cold front. Not a problem there at all. Now, The other two things that you need is you need good energy to provide that instability in the atmosphere to fuel those storms. And in order to get those storms to stay organized and go severe, you need at least a certain amount of bulk shear, which is change in wind speed as you go from the surface up to about 40,000 feet or so up into the air. So as you go through that, that provides the energy. Well, let's just examine the parameters here. Let's look at CAPE, convective available potential energy. It's a measure of instability. Certainly we've got that tomorrow. In fact, we're talking maybe 4,000, 4,500 joules per kilogram of CAPE. More than enough to fire off thunderstorms tomorrow. Not to worry about that. That's the high-res NAM. If we take a look at what some of the other models are saying, you can see, oh, not quite as much, but still a pretty significant amount. And finally, the third model, you can see, again, very significant amount there. So not a problem with the CAPE tomorrow. It's the bulk shear. It's the wind energy that will be the problem. You need, in general, for organized severe weather, you need about 35 to 40 knots of bulk shear as you go from the surface up to the 500 millibar level. What we're finding tomorrow is we don't really have that, and so we've got subpar wind energy. You can see in this particular model, the 30 knot only extends down to a little portion of us, and really you don't get to 40 knots in here until you get to Indianapolis and above, north of the cold front. In other words, the best wind energy is behind the cold front, not ahead of the cold front. We would need that ahead of the cold front to get storms to really form and organize into a severe weather type of an event. So this doesn't bode well for our severe weather chances. Not the only model that we can look at. We can look at some others as well. This model has even less. And finally, if we look at just one third model here, what we can see, the high-res NAM has virtually nothing around us. Will we have some bulk shear? Sure, 20 to 25 knots of bulk shear is what the models are showing in general, but that's very subpar. Could we get a severe storm squeaked out of that? Yes, but it doesn't look like a significant event to me. In my opinion, I'm not sure a slight risk is justified. I think maybe a marginal risk might be better for us. I don't see just a massive amount of warnings tomorrow. I think we might see 1 or 2 warnings out of this if we get anything. And it's very strongly possible that we might not get anything. Bottom line is, yes, we got the forcing mechanism coming in with the cold front, and yes, we got plenty of instability, but we don't have the wind energy to help us sustain an organized severe weather threat. Therefore, the threat is fairly low, in my opinion. Still, we can time it out on future radar and give you an idea what to expect. Here we went through this morning. There's Bill as it moves off to the east. This is the high-resolution NAM, and you can see we stay pretty well dry. What you're seeing here is those storms that are developing that I showed you on the current radar view in Iowa. Those will sort of push our way during the overnight hours tonight, and you can see they sort of dissipate and go off. Tomorrow afternoon, though, as we get later in the afternoon, here's when we start to get some storms developing. Here's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, you can see maybe we get some of those storms starting to go. They're pretty spotty, and they're not organizing really into a line the way things look on it right now, and they really don't start to organize into anything in specific until they really get past us, and then by the time they organize into this, it's starting to become more of a heavy rain threat with it. So a few spotty storms possible tomorrow afternoon. Could we see a warning or two? Possibly, but I don't think it's a big threat for us, folks, so it's not something that we're going to just sort of go out and say, batten down the hatches, cancel all your Father's Day plans. Not at all. In fact, Father's Day, for the most part, will be fine. Just keep an eye to the sky, though, and keep it here tuned to Southern Indiana weather for updates throughout tomorrow. Forecast then, we can go to southernindianaweather.com, click on your 10-day forecast. You can find this on the mobile app, on the mobile as well. The website is very mobile friendly, folks. 91 for your high tomorrow, so it's going to be hot and humid again. Scattered showers and thunderstorms during the afternoon. Again, strong thunderstorms possible, but certainly not a guarantee. Just keep an eye out. And the 90s stick around for a while. We got some isolated chances on Monday. Better chance of some storms on Tuesday. Then it goes into a more isolated fashion as you head out from that. But nearly daily storm chances as you go through the 10 days, so there is a chance that we can add more inches onto this. Of course, we don't really need it right now, but at least, if nothing else, we got the rain out of here for now. We'll enjoy a dry spell for the next 24 hours or so till tomorrow night when we see a few storms roll into the area. So, folks, just keep it tuned here. Have a wonderful Father's Day if you got outside plans grilling out. Hopefully it'll be a pretty nice, hot day otherwise for that. Just keep an eye to the sky and keep it tuned here, and we'll keep you updated. I'm meteorologist Michael Wilhite. Have a great Father's Day tomorrow, folks, and we'll see you next time.